Hello everyone, Sierra Turner here. Welcome to today's training session. Today we are here for session 5 to focus on relationship building. Now, as always, we want to give a huge shout out and moment of gratitude for the Health Resources and Service Administration for their contribution and support towards our project and today's training. Without them, this wouldn't be possible. Now, what is the purpose of today? Well, the purpose of today is to discuss and identify factors that are present in healthy relationships and relationship building. Here are some factors that are present in healthy relationships: communication, both verbal and nonverbal, self-control, mutual respect, trust, honesty, accessibility, responsiveness, and engagement. Now, I'd like to take a moment here and reflect. Which of these are factors as values in your relationships? Now, we know relationship building is happening, and young people report that they feel known and accepted by others when they receive emotional support and practical encouragement from each other and adults. Last time we talked about emotional safety. Relationship building is a primary way to achieve that safety. Now, what is relationship building? Relationship building is the development of caring, supportive relationships between people, meaning adults and young people, among young people and their peers, and between adults, because it's important to note that young people do observe how facilitators or adults treat each other and respect each other. Now, relationship building means what? Well, I'll tell you. Young people experience emotional and practical support from adults and peers, experience guidance from adults, and build knowledge of adults and peers. There's overwhelming evidence that the presence of caring, supportive relationships between young people and adults is one of the most critical factors in the healthy development of young people. In fact, the presence of caring, supportive relationships is a leading indicator that young people will be healthy and productive adults, regardless of their economic circumstances and other risk factors. Let me slow down a little bit. By providing opportunities for relationship building, we ensure that our youth development programs are contributing to important developmental needs of the young people that we serve. Now, as 14-year-old LM once said, "I've learned a lot about myself and how to interact with people and how to improve this. I've learned a lot about communicating." And she is a participant in the Lavender Youth Recreation and Information Center in San Francisco, California. When building relationships, here are some questions to deeply consider. What strategies will assist in building a healthy adolescent-youth worker relationship? We tend to think of relationships as happening naturally and that they somehow aren't authentic if there wasn't a strategy behind them. But that isn't the case at all. Any marital or family counselor will tell you that relationships take strategies and skills. So another question to think about are, what are the benefits and potential consequences of having relationship building strategies? What might you expect to observe in a setting that promotes relationship building? In other words, how do you know if you succeeded? These are important questions to consider when program planning. Once the interest in relationship building is initiated, there are further steps to be taken. Relationship building isn't just about how you interact with each other. There are some structural and staff components that are necessary to create the space or opportunity for building relationships. Programs interested in and geared towards relationship building should have a low youth to staff ratio, meaning each young person has one adult who knows him or her or them very well. This might include having staff trained in conflict resolution. The exact youth to staff ratio depends on your young people and your program, but there is a limit to how many relationships one staff member can sustain while facilitating program activities and ensuring respectful behavior among program participants. Ideally, each young person should have one adult who knows them well. Sorry about that, I lost my notes for a moment. Additionally, programs interested in and geared towards relationship building should have safe and reliable activities and spaces. This include examples such as having an established check-in circle or conflict resolution training or lesson. Here's an example of a relationship building strategy that ensures each young person has a staff member who knows them. During a staff meeting, go through the roster of program participants and make sure that at least one adult says that they know that young person well. Sometimes young people can fall through the cracks. Sometimes it's because they have learned to try to not be seen. And simple strategies like this can make sure that this doesn't happen. There also must be clear procedures for resolving conflicts before they erupt. As we talked about in the last session, if young people know that they are following a procedure they have all agreed upon, they are more likely to feel seen, heard, and treated fairly. Finally, young people have supersized fairness antennas. They're also experts at detecting inauthentic kindness. This makes it super important for staff to have a mechanism to ensure fair, consistent, and equitable opportunities and care for all patients. All participants, not patients, excuse me. In addition, it's important for programs to uphold high and clear standards when developing ground rules with young people. Such standards include not swearing, not shouting, and always speaking in a respectful tone. It's important that staff follow these standards as well, or they will be perceived as hypocritical and will lose trust of the youth participants, which undermines relationships. Lastly, opportunities for relationship building can begin and be sustained at all levels of the organization. It's not only the frontline staff that have relationships with youth, and good relationships between staff are also important. It's hard for those to be there for the good adult-youth relationships when none of the adults are getting along. I hope these strategies sound familiar. You may notice that many of the same things that promote healthy relationships also promote safety, which we talked about in our last session. All right. So we've talked about the strategies that programs can do to promote healthy relationships. Here are some specific things that program leaders and staff can do as well as individuals. The most important thing by far is to focus on yourself. How do you manage your own relationships? It is impossible to model healthy relationships if we don't actually engage in them ourselves. The phrase, heal the world by healing yourself, really applies here. It is the single most important thing you can do to foster healthy relationships between young people. Now, here's some other things you can do in your individual relationships with young people. Discuss the meaning of true friendship. True friends like you for yourself. They try to help you and encourage you, and they stand by you when other kids make fun of you or give you a hard time. A true friend does not judge you by the clothes you wear or how popular you are, or if you have popular friends. Examples of good friends are abound in movies, books, and songs, but also in our community. These can also be pointed out to the young people. Boundaries in relationships are also important, and modeling and teaching those can be of tremendous help to young people. In session 2, we talked about the areas of socio-emotional development, such as recognizing and regulating one's own emotions. These skills need to be both modeled and taught. Showing young people how to respect privacy helps sustain relationships and emotional safety. Finally, handling difficult situations with tact is a skill many young people are just beginning to learn. How can friends be honest and kind, for example? Now, let's take a moment here and reflect. Has anyone ever told you that they were proud of you? If so, how did that make you feel? Adolescents need and want approval. Unconditional pride helps them build self-esteem and self-worth. Adult expressions of pride during these times of failure are as important as pride during times of success. However, if these statements are not authentic or are overused, they lose their value. It's like everyone getting the trophy for the egg toss. It is meaningless unless "I am proud of you" is a particularly powerful thing when it is said in a sincere way or to a difficult effort by the young person, such as controlling their temper when they wanted to explode, cleaning up after everyone even though it wasn't their job. And it is particularly powerful when it comes unasked for, because it means the adult was noticing when the young person was doing that effort and that effort was being made. Now, in U.S. mainstream culture, eye contact is super important when communicating, especially when you're saying you are proud of a young person. However, sometimes young people come from different cultures in our program and are taught to never make eye contact with adults out of a show of respect. Cultural awareness is a key element to be mindful of when you are working with youth. Now, here we have on the slide some alternatives to "I'm proud of you." We have a couple examples such as "I really admire the effort that you are putting into that project." It is so much fun to go to your sports games, basketball games, football games. "Wow, I know you really wanted to achieve that goal. I really admire the way you're handling disappointment." Now, have you ever heard of any of these phrases before? Do you wish you have heard some of these phrases before? How would you receive one of these messages, and how might it make you feel? Now, here are some questions to consider when defining a healthy relationship. How does your relationship differ depending on the relationship with who it's with? What are characteristics of unhealthy adolescent worker relationships? What are some red flags to consider? And how might relationships differ between facilitators and the relationship between young people? What strategies will assist in building a healthy adolescent worker relationship? Things to consider. Now, by establishing healthy relationships, we see decreases in the likelihood of risky behaviors. This happens in two ways. First, healthy relationships mean that young people don't look for support and connection in the wrong places, such as with gangs. But also, when we have healthy relationships, they buffer or protect us against stress. In other words, people with healthy relationships are better able to cope with stress. All right. So here are some youth program outcomes we hope to see from the development of healthy relationships. And here are things that you can look for as well. Conflicts are resolved with words, not raised voices or fists. If needed, adults are asked to assist with the situation. Young people are able to work together in groups across differences of age, gender, ethnic background, races, ability, and social status. Young people approach adults to discuss their problems that they may have. There's a time in the day to reflect on the group's accomplishments and interactions. And adults are available before and after the program for informal conversation with participants. That also greatly helps in relationship building. All right, so in summary, we know relationship building is happening, and we know that young people report that they feel known and accepted by others when they receive emotional support and practical encouragement from each other and adults. There's overwhelming evidence that the presence of caring, supportive relationships between young people and adults is critical to healthy development. By providing opportunities for relationship building, we ensure that our youth development programs are contributing to the important developmental needs of the young people we serve. With that, thanks for joining for session 5, and I'll see you at our next session. Have a great day.